So I just parked my car, turned around to head through the kissing gate, and it's been here a couple of weeks. The cone was actually washed down the river, but the rubbish was dumped here. Good old-fashioned fly tipping. So here's a montage. So, what's the answer then, folks? Do we do what the council do and we say, do you know what? It's not the kids' fault. They are victims. Is it our job to clear up after the kids? Because if we don't do it, no one's going to do it. Or do we come up with a mechanism and say culture, education? Do we come up with some clever way of educating everybody that they just stop? For me, as someone who's heavily involved in conservation, I know there's only so much resource we have to deal with things. So, yes, if we had, I don't know, I couldn't even put a number on it, but if we had the time and less jobs to do, we could go around picking up litter. But not at the cost of not doing conservation work. It's not worth it. The conservation work is way more important than picking up some wrappers that should be dealt with by either the local authority, because they are the ones with the responsibility for dealing with the bylaws of littering and dog fouling for that matter, and they don't do anything about it. I bet if I did, I'm almost certain of this because I did a Freedom of Information request about dog fouling, and at that point, this was several years ago, not one fine had been issued. And I said, really? Are you telling me then that there's been no dog fouling in the county or in the Reading and Wokingham boroughs? No, came the timid voice. I'm not saying that fining people is going to end the whole subject, but what I am saying is in our wealthy country, one thing that really does affect people is fines. I got a parking fine for parking outside a hospital. It was a bit of a misunderstanding about the signage, but I had to pay it. Didn't like it. We'll never park there again. I think they're horrible for putting parking fines outside of hospitals, given the circumstances myself and many other families face. Last thing we should have to face. But I think the last thing we should also have to face is litter, because nobody is getting fined for dropping it. No consequence. If I sound a bit annoyed, I am, because I'm sick of litter. I'm sick of litter being washed down the rivers. I'm sick of litter being dropped on the ground and no one doing anything about it. It's time we took a stand against these people. I welcome your comments. What I want to say is there are, great things going on in terms of saving the oceans, the attempt to save the oceans, climate change, how the whole Greta bandwagon has got great momentum, and they've got this feisty girl that politicians are scared of and all that kind of stuff. Isn't that wonderful? And it is wonderful in many ways. But at the same time, the big picture is great, of course. If we don't do certain things, and a lot of it, then we're not going to have wildlife. We're not going to have wildlife anyway because of overdevelopment, overpopulation, and a population that has nothing but contempt for the countryside, for the outside. Whilst we allow rubbish to be dropped without consequence, it's never going to change. If we pick up after people, it's not going to change. It's as simple as that. People have to be taught, and if necessary, fined to stop it. We as a tiny little conservation body, all the conservation bodies in the country, little friends groups, you name it, it's not our job to pick up after people. It's our job to do what we can to make the nature part better, but it's everybody's job to stop littering and stop accepting that it's just one of those things and we have to clear up after people. Because other people think it's someone else's job. It doesn't even enter their brains. They don't care. They've been brought up in families, or they've started to hang out with people who think it's fun and just kind of go, I've watched kids coming out of school myself, letting go of wrappers, stuffing things into their face, let go. There you go, it's on the ground. Someone else's job now. We have to stop it. That's it. That's my only message on this one, is we have to stop it. I don't know how we stop it. being angry about it, that's probably not going to get us too far. We have to have an action plan. I'm trying to do a vlog that will be engaging, but I want it to be funny. I want it to be light-hearted, but at the same time, conservation is a real challenge, and it's not going to fix itself. Humanity is the only thing that can make the difference. And that's not just a handful of us, because conservation, I can tell you, on a local level, is a small fraction of percentage of the overall local people. And it's always the same ones who come back over and over and over again. And these are the people that should be getting CBEs and OBEs, not hairdressers and other people. You know, there was this whole fast thing with David Cameron's wife's hairdresser getting nominated for a CBE. Good God, where are the people getting CBEs for picking up litter? You've got to have a solution. But I don't have a solution. All I have is I don't want to rant. Ranting just doesn't make anyone feel better. Get it off your chest. Is the rubbish out there going to disappear on its own? No, of course it's not. One or two people, or maybe if we just get all our things done next month or so, we have to get in before April, because then it's the bird nesting season, and that has to be respected. You can't clear up when there are nesting birds. Well, when are we supposed to do it? Right now. Right now. And people might be watching this thinking, well, why aren't you doing it then? You're out there moaning about it, saying it needs to be done. Well, yeah, I'm birding. It might not seem like conservation work to you, but I'm providing a service and education for people. And not to sound at all defensive, but I've been in conservation most of my life. And I can tell you, when there are limited hands, it's just not viable to spend time picking up litter when there are so many other volunteer groups who are available to do so. What needs to be coordinated is everybody's kind of efforts need coordination. Exactly that. Everyone should be able to talk to each other, platforms, local authorities, but ultimately, I think it should be the antisocial criminals. Criminals is a hard word for it, harsh word for it. But frankly, it should be the people who are dropping their dog poo bags, the kids who are dropping their litter, the people throwing stuff out of their cars. Every one of them should be spotted on webcams and dash cams, and goodness knows that so many vloggers and people with mobile phones with videos on them now. Should be really, really easy to capture people. Sounds a bit like communism, doesn't it? Horrible. Yeah, poor people, they drop their litter. Let's put them in chains and make them walk the streets and pick it up. Well, no, I'm not talking about that, but I am saying if they drop litter, they are a criminal. They're a criminal of the wildlife of this country and the world. Where do you think these bottles are going to go when they go down the river? The ones that don't get caught up in the path here are heading for the Thames. When they get to the Thames, where they're going to go next? Down the Thames and into the sea, into our oceans. So it all starts here, locally, inland. Stop dropping litter, everyone. Let's stop those that do it. Think of something. We need to think of something now. My name is not Greta. I don't want to be a TV personality. I just want to see a cleaner world with more wildlife, and that seems to be quite a challenge.